Welcome, everybody, back to The Buzz. It's our grand finale for high school basketball, and we're going to have a great show. It might be our best show. So high school hoops is over in the CIF and the Sac Joaquin section. Everything finished up over the weekend at Golden One Center. Just so cool that basketball was back. It was 3 years since we've had state championships with COVID. Finally, the kids have won. Our good friend who watches this show regularly, Scott Tedman, a basketball coach at Sacramento Adventist Academy, nailed it when he said, COVID lost this time. The kids won. COVID's in the past, so we appreciate that. In today's show, we're going to touch on how Elk Grove High School won it all in Division II and why that's so significant for a homegrown group of kids. Go public schools, it still matters. And why have only 6 area boys teams won a state championship in basketball in the 40-year history of the event. It just amazes me. Only 6, all public school. We'll have a graphic later to explain that and try to understand why that happens and just what it all means. Jim Patrick will join us momentarily to touch on big topic things, including softball. Cameron Salerno always jumps aboard. He'll do so again later to talk about the best player on the top team in the state, a Centennial of Southern California for high school boys hoops, and why that athlete left Folsom and Sacramento. Why didn't he stay here? Why he went down there is a trend. So we'll touch on that. Cameron also does a great job on high school baseball. We'll have those rankings and news and notes and themes and trends. First, let's kick off the show with a feel-good mention. And this is on Cooper Richardson. If you saw, there's big Cooper there on the right. He was a football star for his father, Chris Richardson, his position coach at Folsom High School. In high school, he couldn't even run and chew gum at the same time until he was a senior. Then he does a pro day. And these are big numbers for a big man. And there he is. If you saw a shirtless guy with a mullet running around, that was probably him. And he had a pro day. There's a lot of NFL scouts here. Don't know if he'll get drafted, but he's probably going to be in a training camp site. And this is just a cool thing. He's such a good guy, as a person. He got to be better as a player. Here's his 40. Could you imagine this guy chasing you down? Big Coop with a 4.9 something 40-yard dash. Really well done. I think he's going to get into high school coaching and teaching to follow up on his father. So the pressure was immense for Cooper when he was in high school. You know, your father is this well-known coach, Chris Richardson. He's a lineman specialist, and poor Coop he didn't have much coordination. He worked tirelessly on footwork and conditioning and agility. And by the time he was a senior at Folsom High, he was an all-metro player, got a scholarship to UC Davis, became a starter there, was a team captain there, graduates, becomes a graduate transfer to Sacramento State to play for his father again, Chris, who was the assistant head coach under with Troy Taylor at Sac State. So kudos to Coop, does a lot of good things. It's just nice to see guys come so far, and the theme there is just keep working and good things will pay off. So kudos to Big Coop. Plus, by the way, he's probably for hire if you need a bouncer or if you need to have a refrigerator moved or something like that. So very, very cool. All right, let's touch on Elk Grove basketball. Here's some video from Sarah Nevis after they won. The Thundering Herd won the Northern California Championship. So there's some of that excitement. We ran this last week, and it took it right into Golden One Center, where the state Division II championship against Foothill of Santa Ana, and Elk Grove won 62-56. The same cast of guys. There's Money Lott, Dejan Lott, there's Amir Britton, number 20. They led the charge again. But what really makes this team is the support crew as well. Isaiah King, Carlos Zepeda, Jordan Hess, Grant Galanka, flanked with Amir Britton and Dejan Lott. And so they won the state championship. Just not easy to do. There's only been a handful. There's Coach Monday there in the forefront, alum of the school, coached for a long time. He was very emotional after this Northern California championship win, very emotional after the state championship win, a lot of long, hard embraces. And I asked the coach, I said, are you stepping down? And this looks like a farewell. No, just appreciates these guys. And it was pretty moving in his post-game discussion where he talked about how you spend so much more time with these players than your own kids. And so they all buy in. So great job by Elk Grove. We had a story this week in the Sacramento Bee as well on the greatest alum from Elk Grove, at least in athletics, Bill Cartwright. Watched those games. He was in contact with other players who played at Elk Grove. So it's a generational gap thing. So really neat to see. We're going to run this really cool chart on here. The only boys basketball state champions ever from the Sacramento area, not including Modesto Christian or Modesto High. They've won state championships. So they're all public schools. And 2 of them won by Foothill under Drew Hibbs in 94 and 2003. Stan Harms coached the 85 team. Steve Scott coached the 2005 team that had Ryan Anderson, who played a long time in the NFL, or the NBA rather. 2012 had Marquise Chris, who's still in the NBA. Elk Grove just won it. It's just hard. Why is that? It's because the sheer numbers in Southern California, so many more schools, so many more athletes, and it leads to more success. And that's the case in everything. Athletic, girls basketball, swimming, track and field, baseball, softball, wrestling. So when these rare schools do win it, it's a cool thing. And Coach Monday, the Elk Grove coach, said the key for the public schools is keep your guys together. And the Elk Grove guys kept all their guys together. And, in this era where it's almost a surprise if teams do stay together because people are so into transfer. So very cool for that. We had another Sac Joaquin section team in the state finals. That was Modesto Christian in the Elite Open Division, taking on Centennial of the Los Angeles region. And this was a tremendous game. Centennial won, I think, ended with a 30-game winning streak, number 2 ranked team in America. Powerhouse. This is big boy basketball. If you're wondering why your kid's not getting recruited, or if you're wondering why you're not getting recruited, take a look at some of these players and some of these teams, and that's where the recruiting interest lies. And both of these teams have a lot of guys coming back. Modesto Christian had a gallant effort in that game. It looked like it was going to be a blowout, but Modesto Christian kept carving into it. And then Centennial pulled away late. Just terrific teams, and that's why there's the open division, to put the heavies in there. And I think those teams will be back. Cameron Salerno and I will talk about Centennial's best player, Jared McCain, who has 916 roots. So, all right, let's bring in Jim Patrick. And he wasn't with us at Golden One. He was with the FC soccer season opener, but he was with us in spirit. And Jim, can you believe it's 3 years since we had state championships until the other day, and it's kind of been a blur. So kudos to normalcy and getting closer. And it's nice to have it back.
Can you believe I've never seen, this is the first normal season I've seen, Joe, from start to finish, because I took over the sports editor not quite 3 years ago, and my first regular season was cut a little bit short, as I recall. Can't quite remember what happened. I feel like something. Anyway, yeah, it was. It's just another marker on the way. It feels like, and frankly, the kids were the ones that were always hurt by this in the first place. Of the see the weirdness that has happened the last couple of seasons. So, hats off to the kids. It's not about you and me enjoying it. It's about the fact that the kids are enjoying some sense of normalcy.
Yeah, and it was great to see. And, playing in that big venue is a big deal. And we have a story running Sunday on great moments and unique things that happen at Arco Arena as that building's about to be torn down. And for the high school kids, Jim, forever, for so many years at Arco, from 1988 until a few years ago, and now at Golden One, if you can cap your season, a section championship or a state championship at an NBA venue, that's a pretty good deal. There's not many in America that do that. And I believe that this is the only state that has it for sectional rounds at an NBA venue. So kudos to that. So that's that wow factor. And they get that back last week. They get it all back.
Yeah, I'm sitting here rolling it over in my brain. I've covered high school sports in 6 states. And I can tell you that Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Minnesota, and Utah do not play their state championships in an NBA arena. So it is a treat. And what a shout out for the section, playing the section finals there. I know a lot of coaches would tell you probably winning sections is a bigger deal than winning NorCals or winning a state championship, just because it's more reasonable, maybe. Joe, do you get that sense? Like, I feel like section titles are more important, generally speaking, to most coaches than state titles or a
Jim, that's a great question and a good topic. I think it's divided. I think there's, for most, if you can get to a section final, that's a big deal. If you can get to Golden One Center and have a chance, that is the big deal. But if you're a heavyweight program, Modesto Christian, Sheldon basketball, they fully expect to win Northern California championships because they've won those before. Mm-hmm. But mostly you're right. And for a lot of schools too, Jim, just to win a league championship still means something. And some of that's been lost in football and basketball and the spring sports because the section championships are so big, and baseball and softball will have regional championships for the first time. So I think basically what we're saying is, hey, appreciate anything you can get. Any kind of success is hard to achieve in high school sports anymore.
Well, the section seems to do a really nice job of, generally speaking, getting big games in big venues. I think to football, playing section title games over at Hughes Stadium. I think of the basketball games, obviously at Golden One, but they do a decent job of getting some decent venues. And the soccer games, Division I soccer games held at Hart Health Park, was a step in the right direction for those kids as well. So the section gets it. Bottom line, they do and the section takes a lot of heat. And I am one to throw heat when heat is deserved. But I don't think they deserve any heat they do a nice job with getting championship games in the right venues.
I agree.
But Joe, you mentioned conferences. It made me think of last spring. Maybe the story, sad isn't the right word, but the Laguna Creek softball team had a very good team for the first time in 20 years school history or whatever. And they would have won a league championship, except there were no league championships last year. So they did not win a league championship for the first time in school history. And it's that kind of story that I felt like we missed out on last year.
No, it's a good point, and I applaud the section and the CIF, the governing body for high school sports, for having some of these great events in the big venue. And people ask us every season, Jim, well, why isn't Southern California hosting some of these state basketball championships? We'll put a bid in. If you're USC or UC Irvine, put a bid in. And Golden One Center and Arco before that has really had a nice partnership of sorts with the CIF, and the CIF wants a wow moment. And so that's cool. We didn't have, I've got the figures right here, Jim. So the state basketball attendance over 2 days was nearly 14,000. That's not bad considering all these games are on television or on live stream. And some people just don't want to navigate downtown and would rather watch there, but that's not bad at all. So kudos to that. All right, let's talk some softball. Let's put the softball graphics up. These are records entering this week. These rankings done by our good friend Pete DeFore. He has a full top 20. So check him out throughout the week on sacb.com. He's also a good follow on Twitter, Pete DeFore. So we got a new number 1, and we have a number 10 team that's playing number 1.
Yeah, and really that game is important for a couple of reasons. Let me work through the rankings here real quick. Elk Grove 6-1. They're not ducking anybody. And Sheldon 2-2. They've played some great competition. Rockland also is not ducking anybody at 4-4 there. That's the reason they're up in our rankings. But really the game of the week this week, Joe, and you mentioned it, it's Sutter and Elk Grove going at it. Not necessarily because Sutter's unbeaten and Elk Grove is 6-1, but Sutter is unbeaten in 49 straight games.
Incredible. So, and they schedule tough. The Huskies don't duck anybody. Sutter is in Sutter, Yuba County. They're in the northern section. This is the Sac Joaquin section otherwise, but we include those teams. And kudos to Sutter for taking on a heavyweight in Elk Grove. And that's going to be it's not a playoff game. It doesn't mean anything towards playoffs, but this is a nice gauge game. And East Nicholas is another team that's done this too, of the northern section, where small school taking on anybody who will take them on in the Sacramento region, including Elk Grove, or teams in Placer County. We've seen
Joe, and I'm just running through what they've done so far. Sutter's 10-0 win, a 12-0 win, a 12-0 win, a 7-0 win, a 10-0 win, and a 13-0 win. The only game that's been close is Marysville, which is appropriate. Those are rivals of sorts, and that was a 3-2 win for Sutter. So Elk Grove doesn't have as much on the line, except they're the number 1 ranked team in the area, and you can't afford it as the number 1. If they lose, Del Oro is going to move right up, or St. Francis is going to move right up. So it's a great game this afternoon. And
I'm putting the pressure on Pete. If Sutter wins, put them at number 1. Let's go. Well, and Sutter, the small schools. We've touched on this over the years too, Jim. We're on the same vibe here, where it doesn't matter where you go to school. If you're a player with ability and good grades and good character, you're going to get a scholarship. So for Sutter High School's, small school, Riley Wickham is their star pitcher. She had 18 strikeouts in a game last week, and she's going to Cal State Northridge. That's that's big time. And so we've seen it at East Nicholas, where girls have gone to full scholarship programs, and it happens a lot at Elk Grove and at Sheldon. So if you're a player, you'll get recognized. So that's cool. Kudos to Sutter for this run and for taking on Elk Grove.
And Pete Dufauer will be up there today tweeting about it, I'm sure, probably tagging me on Twitter. So if anybody's following me or Pete on Twitter, they will get blow-by-blow updates from that game. I am confident.
And one last note on our friend Pete Dufauer. He also is the public address announcer for Placer Baseball, and they play some night games, including on Fridays. I've gone there, and he plays music upon. You want Rolling Stones? You want some Bob Seger? We can do it. And he's just a man of the people, and so we're glad to have him. And I just wish he worked harder. I just wish he played more.
He's the busiest guy in sports. Next to you, Joe. Next to you.
There we go. Jim, always good, my friend. We'll see you soon next week, and thanks as always.
All right, Slaint, happy Slaint. That is Slaint, the Irish cheers. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Joe.
Exactly. Green ale. All right, there we go. Let's bring in Cameron Salerno. Speaking of guys who work hard and who care, Cameron is all over our section or our regional baseball rankings. I did those rankings for 30 years, and Cameron asked if he could do the rankings this year, and I said, please take him on, and he's done a great job. We're getting a lot of subscriptions off of this. People are paying for it, which tells us that, okay, we're going to keep feeding the beast. I think we had high school baseball rankings that you did this week, Cameron, and 7 subscriptions off of that because you drop in names and themes and trends and rankings and players. You have a full top 25 with Bubble Team, so check him out. Cameron's on Twitter and as well. But Cameron, before we touch baseball, let's talk about a cool story. And you're welcome, by the way, for all the kudos, Mr.
Thank you. There
you go. You did a story on Jared McCain, who grew up in the Sacramento area and did a nice centerpiece story that ran into be the other day, leading into the CIF State Open Division Championship. State's number 1 team, Centennial, taking on Modesto Christian. We touched on it earlier. So tell us about Jared McCain, what he was doing here and how he wound up down there, and what's the big deal?
Jared McCain is a celebrity. I think that's the way to put it. He is well known. I thought what was incredible is I watched him come out of the tunnel when he entered Golden 1, and there was people there with their cameras and asking for high fives, and maybe I thought, okay, maybe this just is a one-time thing. And then you see him leave the game, and someone threw him a T-shirt for him to have. They asked for autographs. They asked for pictures. And, I mean, I talked to some people at Centennial, and they said they have to have security sometimes because it gets so crazy. And so it just shows the star power this kid has. And he's going to announce his college decision tomorrow. I think he's going to announce it between Gonzaga or Duke. And, I mean, that's my guess where he might end up. But, yeah, going back.
That's a player, Cameron. That is a player if you're getting looked at by those programs. So he's talented. He was just named the Gatorade State Player of the Year. He's probably going to be the State Player of the Year by a couple of things. 6'3" guard. We saw him the other night. He's got ability, and he's got that star power. Could he have not attained that star power around 6? His older brother at Folsom. He could have played at Folsom, certainly, but why did he leave before high school? Why move south when he could have done all this up north?
He told me he moved down south in 8th grade because he wanted to raise his competition level. Obviously, in Southern California, there's more high school teams, there's more clubs. Basketball is more serious down there. When you talk about basketball in California, what do you think of? You think of the Lakers, you think of USC, you think of UCLA, you think of the big brands down south. You don't think of the Sacramento Kings. Sorry for all the Kings fans out there. But that's why he made the move, and I think it paid off tremendously. He's grown tremendously as a player. He's now a star. I mean, I think he could have attained it here in Sacramento, but who knows if he would have been on that star level, he would have got that exposure. So there's always what ifs, but I think he made the right decision. It's definitely a trend.
It's paid off, and you're going to work on a big story here in the coming weeks on why basketball kids transfer. And for this situation, it was a big family move. So now kudos to him, and he's only a junior. We'll see him again. They may be back in the state Open Division Finals. And I think the one thing that needs to be noted is he's a good person and a good citizen. So that's
he's awesome.
I think people are going to flock to him to get an autograph. I mean, you have suspect character, but people still ask for your autograph, so we get that. But all right, let's take a look real quick, Cameron, on baseball. This is our top 10 entering the week. So a couple teams have more. Some of these teams have some more wins. You have a full top 25. Check that out on SacB.com. I'm going to ask you about Woodcreek. You saw the Timberwolves of Placer County of Roseville last week. New coach, who is that, and who are some of their leading guys?
Yeah, so they have Lucas Cohn, who was an assistant coach last year on the staff. He took over for Joe Manfredi, who resigned before the season started, so it was kind of a little chaotic, but they got together. This is Woodcreek's most talented team in school history, a school that opened in 1994. They have 9 Division I commits on their team, which is
Say that again. 9 Division I commit. That is astounding. And Elk Grove's had some great teams, but I don't know if they've ever had 9 on one roster.
Well, you see some teams have 9 college commits. Some kids go to junior college, or some kids go to Division II, but they have Nebraska, they have Sac State, they have Santa Clara, they have Vanderbilt. I mean, they are loaded, and I think they're going to even get healthier as the season goes on. One of their best players, Caden Thompson, he's a shortstop and an infielder. He's going to Santa Clara. He's had surgery in the offseason. He will return probably at the start of May or late April. Austin Nye, he's a standout sophomore, transferred over from Roseville. He committed to Vanderbilt in January, and so he has to sit out the first 30 days due to transfer rules. And then another player who is not going to be able to play this season is Isaac Hawthorne. He started his high school career at Woodcreek. Then he transferred to Alpha Charter, and then he transferred back to Woodcreek. The section ruled it another move, so he had to sit out another year. Fun fact, I went to high school with his older brother. He was on our basketball team at Woodcreek. So, yeah, he's a great guy. I've known him over the years. So I think, Joe, you can attest to this. It's so weird watching kids you knew who are very young grow up, and now they're in high school and they're a college commit. I know you're on a bigger scale because you're older than me, but I think it's still pretty cool to see kids grow up before your eyes and become that person.
And it's that's what makes covering high school sports fun, and a lot of times they come back. And a perfect example is Todd Malone is an assistant coach for Woodcreek. He's an all-time great from around here in the early 1980s. He pitched at Casa Roble when Casa Roble was a Division I powerhouse. He had 555 strikeouts for his career. It's a regional record I just don't see getting broken because of pitching limitations now. And I think he has a son on the team. He's had a son on the team before. And so here's a guy who knows what it's like to pitch at the highest level in high school and get drafted and all that. So what a gift for Woodcreek to have a guy like that giving back. I don't know if he could throw BP anymore. I don't know if he needs to ice up before just to get out of bed. I don't know, but good guy with a great past, and he's had some pretty good sons play some baseball over the years.
Yeah, and I've known Tower over the years too. I went to high school with him as well, and he's just a good guy. Played at Oregon State, helped lead them to a national championship. If you can pull up that graphic one more time, I wanted to add something. So speaking of drafted, I remember that picture that is on the graphic. It was Woodcreek versus Sheldon at Sac City. It was the second round of the Sac Joaquin section playoffs. Oh, yeah. Sheldon pitched Matt Manning, who ended up being a top 10 draft pick, I believe. I think he went number 9 overall to the Tigers. And there was 30 to 40 scouts there. And I think you were there, Joe, that day.
No, I did. And Matt Manning was a power pitcher, 6'6", and dominated everybody. But Woodcreek just kind of chipped away, stole some bases. And I remember talking to Malone after that game. Time flies. I remember that vividly. And all right, so Cameron, that was a Division I playoff game. Is Woodcreek going to be Division I or Division II, or do we even know at this point?
I believe they're going to be Division II. And if you look at the top 10 right now, Elk Grove, if they win the Delta League, they're Division I. Woodcreek, Division II. Granite Bay could be Division II unless they win the Sierra Foothill League. Franklin, Division II. McClatchy, Division I. Vista Lago.
Franklin would be Division I. Franklin would be Division I for sure.
Oh, yeah, you are right. Sorry.
Right.
Vanden, I think they'd probably be Division II. Same with Del Campo. And Backville's a Division I team. And so,
McClatchy, I think, is Division I too. Is McClatchy Division I or 2?
They're Division I
enrollment.
But
and speaking of big time, Cameron, you had a note in the B this week. Malcolm Moore, he's committed to Stanford. He's going to get drafted, maybe a high draft pick, or Sacramento B Player of the Year last spring. He's got 6 home runs, I think, already. So this guy, don't pitch to this guy. But if you don't pitch to him, he's got teammates around him who will take you over the take you yard. So the McClatchy Lions are off to a fast start. I don't know if they played any of these other heavies, but they usually play a pretty good non-league schedule, and they have to because the Metro League is not that strong. So they have to schedule.
I believe they played Folsom already. They played Consumnes Oaks, and Malcolm Moore is going to be a first-round draft pick potentially this summer, and I think that's incredible. I mean, I remember when I first started off at the B, when I was helping you with the All-Metro team and baseball rankings, there was a freshman, McClatchy, and I told you, I said, I think this kid's going to be pretty good. I think we should put him on the All-Metro team, and I think he turned out to be okay. So, yeah,
Well, I
he's a
remember
good
we
player.
were having lunch and hey, let's go over this. And you already were all over baseball. And you said, I said, normally we don't put freshmen on the all Metro team. And we just don't. It's just so rare. But you said, trust me on this. And I left you with a check. No, I didn't know.
I still
you were right. And that kid had arrived as a freshman. He was beyond his years as a freshman. Here we go as a senior now. So that was a good call. Good forecast.
I still joke with his coach about it. I told him that story when I called him a few weeks ago. But when he was a freshman, I think he committed to Stanford maybe a month or two later. I think it was during that summer going into his sophomore year. So I think it's gonna be fun to watch him because he only played in the playoffs as a freshman. And he led his team to the semifinals as a double-digit seed. They played Folsom. They lost that first game, and then they lost to Jesuit, I believe, if you remember right. I remember those games were at Sac City. So, yeah, he's a great player. I'm excited to watch him. I mean, it's so cool that baseball playoffs are back because we didn't have them for the last 2 years. So who knows what would have happened the last 2 years, because I know
lost opportunities.
In 2020, Vacaville – or go ahead.
No, you're right. In Vacaville, and it's so good to have high school sports back. We tend to really think about football because it's the first big sport, and then basketball. Well, just all the scouts at baseball games and all the scholarship kids from softball programs, and baseball and softball have been so strong around here for so long. And this is the first year we'll have CIF Northern California regional, so we could have an Elk Grove or a Sutter or Del Oro or Sheldon in softball play for a Northern California championship, or an Elk Grove in baseball, or Woodcreek in baseball. That's going to be fun. And we already see Elk Grove does this every year. So does Jesuit, where those programs take on Valley Christian of San Jose, St. Francis of Mountain View, or De La Salle of Concord, and Folsom's playing at De La Salle today in baseball. So playing out of section will make the NorCal regionals seem a little bit more familiar because there'll be some familiarities. That didn't happen years ago, Cameron. Years ago, everybody just scheduled immediately local in all sports, and now it's the norm. I mean, look at Folsom football takes on De La Salle. That was unheard of for anybody, and as recently as the late '90s. And now it's become more common. You challenge your program, you show off your product. It just really helps spread it out, and it makes it easier for seedings and playoffs because you could have some head-to-heads. And I think it's awesome to see it.
I want to add one more thing about scouting. I think it's interesting because when you think of baseball as a whole, you're pretty much getting recruited and scouted on your travel ball teams. But for the high school scene, the last few months leading up to the draft is when you play your high school ball. I mean, by the time you're in high school, your senior year, you're done with travel ball for the most part, unless you're going out to playing like younger levels. And so these last few months for high school baseball is kind of the final opportunity for scouts to do their due diligence and go watch a player. It could affect a player, make him a higher draft pick, a lower draft pick, not get drafted at all, maybe go to college. And so I've seen it on both sides. And so I think it's really cool to see when you go to a game, you see a bunch of scouts, you just know it's going to be a big game. I mean, even when I was at Woodcreek Granite Bay, there was about probably a dozen scouts, and it's always hard to tell them apart because some of the guys will wear their team, and you'll just be able to say, oh yeah, that guy's from the Detroit Tigers, or that guy's from the Chicago Cubs. And then some guys will just blend in with some khakis and a baseball hat and a radar gun. So
and their wraparound shades, and some of them look perpetually grumpy and grouchy. They don't want to talk to anybody. Some of them are local guys and very jovial and very insightful. But great call, Cameron, on what what these scouts are looking for and their radar guns, and they're also looking for, is he coachable? Does he pout? Does Malcolm Moore throw a fit if he strikes out? No, he doesn't. And does he run out of play? And they looked at, these are big investments. And so they're going to be very thorough. So you were talking about Stanford a moment ago. So Ty Uber, the power pitcher from Ponderosa a year ago, is now down at Stanford. Malcolm Moore may be heading to Stanford. Issa Silva, a star basketball player from Jesuit, is at Stanford. Janiyah Harrell, two-time B Player of the Year from Antelope High School, is down at Stanford. So if you could get into Stanford,
Pot too,
that is something.
Well.
That's exactly right. Ari Patu, quarterback out of Folsom. That is a hard school to get into and a great conference, and so not bad. So Cameron,
I had one more thing about the MLB draft is it's different from the NFL and the NBA draft, and it took me a few years to understand this. And from when I watched it growing up, I was like, this kid's a top prospect. Why is he going the round 2 or not getting drafted at all? And so how the MLB draft work is there's a lot of backdoor negotiation, and teams will talk to players and their agent and their families. Hey, would this kid even sign? Does this kid want to go to college? I mean, you've seen it before. I mean, Daniel Suzak coming out of Jesuit was a top 50 player in the nation, regardless of class. That's
the negotiation, the signability. Can we get him? You're right. You're exactly right, Cameron.
And I mean, I talked to someone who is going to be a top or a 2022 prospect for the MLB draft, and their family told me that the first thing they asked them was, would this kid even be willing to sign? Because some kids are just set on college. They want to go get that experience. And it's honestly sometimes a better experience than going to play in the minor leagues where you're traveling by buses. And when you play in college baseball at a bigger school, you're having chartered flights and you're living the luxurious life. So I think it's a lot of interesting facts to go into.
Cameron, some people, I hear from parents till this day that, oh, my kid's getting looked at by the Yankees. He's going to play. Well, no, he's probably going to be on the lowest level minor league. There's a little confusion and all that. So, Cameron, we'll touch on that subject some more. Maybe even have talk to a scout. Maybe it's a good story on what scouts are looking for and why are they hovering around. It does. They are attention grabbers. I mean, you notice them. Like a pack of bees behind the home plate, and it's impressive and can be intimidating for a power pitcher who was, is looking at his strike zone, and right behind is this whole sea of radar guns that come up. So, Cameron, we appreciate you. I think you might have hit 62 on your best fastball with a radar gun. I'm not sure, but
probably a little lower than that. Happy March Madness show. I'm watching on my TV right now, boys.
Tell people who are really into March Madness. Is that this week? Did that start today? Is that next week? Where am I? Hey, we thank everybody. Thanks for watching. We're going to take a couple of weeks off, and then we'll ramp back up for a big spring run. We'll cap all Metro basketball when we do return, and just a lot of other good things. Always send us a note if you like. We're easy to find. You can see our emails and Twitters. Is right there. We're doing this show because we have viewership and people dig it, and we dig the following. So we thank everybody. Special thanks to our behind the scenes guys, Jim Silva, David Caraccio. They're the ones who make this thing work. Sarah Nevis, our terrific photographer. Jim Patrick, my editor and my friend. Cameron Salerno, my guy, who just works so hard. We thank everybody. We'll see you really soon, and we appreciate it.